Hello, my name is Georgianne Ford with the Alpha Center for Divorce Mediation, and I'm here today with one of our attorney-mediator experts. You've probably seen in other blogs, and if you haven't, you should see them because she always brings lots of good strategies, helpful things to think about, just brings it to the front of the table for us to really keep front and center. Today, I believe, Christine Lombardo-Zaun, you're going to talk about good old nitpicking that we all love to do when we're going through a divorce and how we can best maybe manage some of that. Is that right?
Right. That's right. Hi, Georgianne. Thank you. Yes. I didn't see a lot of literature out there, probably because everyone thinks they know, but I will tell you, um, nitpicking can be like the be all end all of a divorce. It can bring the house down.
Hmm.
And, for some of us that have been through a divorce, we sort of know. Some of us may have dodged this bullet, some of us not. So, the purpose of today's recording and my blog is to help those out there that are thinking about going through divorce. And before they get started, to really kind of center themselves and think about this topic of nitpicking. Okay. I had a couple cases recently where I saw a lot of nitpicking going on, and that's kind of what jogged my mind here and kind of sparked the idea. And I was like, you know what, this is probably worth writing about. So this all started a couple years ago, believe it or not. My first big experience with nitpicking was I had a client who fought with his soon-to-be ex-spouse for 1 week over a wall hanging, a $20 wall hanging.
Wow.
A $20 wall hanging.
Oh my gosh, it
This
sounds like
was
there's
not
emotion.
Yeah, no Van Gogh. It was a highly charged argument. It cost my client a lot of money for 1 week. And when I showed him the bill, he was so angry. And I'm like, I tried telling you that whole week, it's not worth it. It's a $20 piece of art.
Oh my goodness.
He learned the hard way.
Mm.
So when I work with my mediation clients, I really try to tell them, I want you to think big picture. Okay. But not everybody can do that. There are people that say they're going to start and they're going to be amicable, right? You've heard that saying, oh, we're going to have an amicable divorce. That's like the kiss of death, isn't it? Right? As soon as you say that, you have just jinxed yourself. Not going to happen. So, and I even joke with my mediation clients when I'm interviewing them and they say, oh, yeah, we're going to be amicable. I'm like, no, don't say that. Don't say that. Because you know what? Whether you're doing mediation or divorce litigation, it's difficult. It is stressful. It is emotionally draining.
Mm.
Just the process of splitting up assets and liabilities or dealing with a parenting arrangement, it is stressful and it's emotional. What makes this process harder is when clients or parties they start fighting over things because of the principle of the matter. And it's almost like a train that is running off the tracks. And it's like a runaway train and you can't stop it. And what happens is in some of those cases, the cost of the divorce might triple or quadruple.
Oh my goodness.
I had a friend of mine actually was not a client. I think her divorce went on for 11 years.
Who wants
Okay?
that?
They were divorced, but they were still fighting and nitpicking. And she had spent over $75,000.
My goodness. Oh.
That in some places could be a hefty amount of tuition for their children's education. But it was all to prove a point. And at the end of that 11-year period, there was nothing to show for it.
Oh my. So they don't go into it wanting nitpicking. They don't think they're going to be this.
They don't think it. And then it's like one little thing, it's like a trigger and it just lights the match. So I want people to kind of take this blog, this recording, and just take a deep breath. And before they get into negotiating with their soon-to-be ex-spouse, and think about a couple things. And what I advise is to make a list of what's really important to you.
Okay.
And it might be that I want to keep the house, or I don't want this car, or I need retirement money, but prioritize it. Like your must have has to be first. Like, what are you willing to fight for? Um, and then you go down the list. When you have that, um, you also want to make a list of things that you're willing to concede or give up. Because you know what? There is always something to concede.
Right.
And in divorce or divorce mediation, you're giving things up. I mean, you're breaking up a marriage,
Hmm.
right? You're breaking up a household. So you're going to have to give some things up. So you have to pick and choose what is really important. If you have that list before you go into a negotiation, you are more than likely not going to get into that nitpicking battle and incur more legal fees.
So
Okay.
time. So it's putting the time in on the front end.
Yes. Well, it would go to my 5 Ps, right? Prior planning prevents poor performance. Um, and so, prepare, prepare, prepare. Know what you have, know what you're willing to give up, and you know what your spouse wants. You'll have a good idea.
Right.
There are some people that want to take something from the spouse to punish them. That will get you nowhere. If anything, it will cost you more in legal fees. If you're going through mediation and you start doing that, your mediator will most likely fire you
Mhm.
and say that you're not mediator friendly. And then you'll be stuck paying legal fees. And the courts get bogged down. And once you do that, and you have to go into the court system, the judge and the court can take control of your case, and they can make decisions for you that you might not want. I
So,
had a case, this was a couple years ago, and it was a child support case. And, client came out and got everything they wanted, and they were happy for about a minute. And then for whatever reason, they were like, well, I feel like I could have gotten more. And they got greedy. That did not bode well for them because they filed a modification. They went back to the court, and ended up losing more than what they originally received.
everything you're talking about, I just feel like you definitely need an expert like you to guide us and direct us because we're going to get real stuck.
Yes. Well, I will tell you, especially with the pandemic, what I've seen is, you're not thinking on all cylinders when you're going through a divorce. We know that. But then you add the pandemic, you add work stresses, you add children stresses, life. It is really hard to think clearly about this. And when you have litigators, they're pushing to get a settlement agreement done. And that makes me nervous. With mediation, I tell my clients that I'm not going to rush through an agreement. We're going to take our time and we're going to think about everything. And we're going to think about what I call is like the big picture. So, litigators, they want the agreement, they want the best position for their client, and they move on. I go a step further. I want to look at the clients, the parties, and say, okay, can you both eat at the end of the day once we split everything up? Do you have retirement money in your bank account? Are the children taken care of? Do they see both parents regularly? Does this all make sense? Does this fit with your particular case? Just because the law says you're entitled to A, B, C, and D, that might not be realistic, and it might not be appropriate for your case. And I think a lot of people might not like that idea because they feel like they have to go by the law. But I will tell you, my clients that have gone through mediation that have been super successful, they don't necessarily spend hours trying to get the exact value of an asset. They agree on a number.
So they're communicating like they're with you, communicating back and forth about.
We do it together as a team.
Okay.
I remember hearing there was a woman who spent $47,000 on a forensic accountant because she thought husband was, stashing money,
Oh my.
and they found nothing. And so there's 47,000 gone. I mean, that could be a new car, that could be tuition, that could be mortgage payments. I mean, I could give you 1,000 ways to spend that money. So, you know, I think it's important that you prepare, that you think logically, that you definitely have an expert on the side guiding you. Hands down, my mediation clients have saved thousands
I'm
of
sure. Look
dollars.
at this, the example you gave alone, $47,000. I mean, did she have the guidance to say, is this, you know, what could this look like?
Right. And we say in our agreements with our clients, you know, you want to make decisions based on need and not greed. Yes, I might run a support calculation and it might say this number, but if it leaves the higher paying spouse with, you know, nothing but ramen noodles at the end of the day and the other spouse can have steak, then that's not an equitable agreement.
Right.
And I don't really care what the law says at that point because it's not real life. It's not working for the family.
That's such an important part that you bring up. And I saw that in your blog and I thought, how many of us think, well, it's whatever the law says. But you said, no, go outside of that and think what's best for
Yeah.
both of us.
I'm a big proponent of thinking outside the box. And I will tell you that I think my clients that have gone through that process and have come alongside me and have thought outside the box and have worked hard at it, you know, they work hard. It's not like it's easy. You know, none of us want to give things up. But in order to do that, to kind of maintain that bigger picture of stability, it pays huge dividends.
Really, what I've heard you say is a lot of things about there's a lot more than just money costs that can be lost if you get stuck on all that nitpicking.
Well, and you know, you also want to think about, this is my final point, you know, how much time do you want to spend on a divorce? Do you want to be that person 11 years of your life tied up with this and that and, you know, arguing over little things like, you know, who's going to sit beside me at dinner or, you know, when's my dinner visit or, you know, who knows, but, you know, and all the legal fees that go with it. You know, there was
Right.
another woman who's like, well, you know, I'm not really spending a lot on legal fees, but she spent the same amount of money on medical costs because it was so emotionally painful.
That's a big, I mean, just the cost of that alone. Ah, that's so
You know,
sad to hear. Mhm.
yeah. So, you know, it's one of those things, if we can prevent this from happening, you can write me and thank me because this one is definitely a money saver for sure. And it's just don't nitpick. Don't be a nitpicker.
It should be like our mirrors when we're going through divorce. It would
Yes.
help.
You need it tattooed.
Yes. Christine, as always, this was really, really helpful. So I hope everybody out there gained some new insights on this, and we're all going to remember that word nitpicking. And I'm sure that's going to change a few people just watching this blog. So thank you.
I hope so. Thanks,
And
Georgia.
anyone that's listening that's interested in learning more about the Alpha Center for Divorce Mediation, talking about one of our experts, please feel free to call 1-800-310-9085. There is a complimentary consultation, and anyone that answers that phone would be more than willing to answer some questions for you. Christine, thanks again.
Take care.
See you soon.